So today we're going to talk a little bit about walking a frog. And there are two primary concerns when you're going to walk your frog. The first one is your rod motion, just how you actually impart the action. The second one is having the right frog for the job and making sure it's set up correctly. And that's your first step, really. The frogs, they vary. This is the Strike King Sexy Frog, and it can actually be walked just like that. You see the legs aren't really trimmed, they're pretty much even. It's a little tricky to walk like that, but you can get it to walk with untrimmed legs. The Spro frogs, a bronze eye, that is going to walk a lot better if you trim the legs. And you notice on this one here, this guy is untrimmed. I haven't touched it yet. Whereas this one, I've trimmed the legs down both in length and I've trimmed them so that they're not the same length, and that's key. It doesn't really matter which side leg you trim, but to walk a frog best, you're usually going to want both shorter legs and also unevenly trimmed legs, and you want to have about a ½ inch to an inch difference in how you trim those legs, and for whatever reason, that lets the frog actually walk very well. And of course, some frogs flat out walk better than others. This is the Ish's fat frog from Snag Proof. It walks extremely well. It's easy to walk. It starts up quickly. You can walk it slow. You can walk it fast. The Spro frogs, they're a little more difficult to walk. You need to walk them. You can walk them pretty tight, but it's hard to get sort of a big, slow walk that approximates what you could get with a spook, like you can get with the fat frogs. But it all depends on what you're after and what the fish want that day. As far as the tackle you want to walk a frog, it's really no different than you would for any regular frogging situation. You're going to want a rod that's about, say, 7 to 7 3/4 feet long, that is heavy power, fast action, and somewhere in that range. If you're fishing more tight cover, you're trying to skip a frog a lot, a shorter rod is probably better. If you're fishing a big grass flat, you probably want a longer rod. As far as line, you want 50 to 80 pound braid, like you would for any other frogging situation. You'll hear people say you can get away with lighter line, with mono, with something like that. Sure, you can if you want, but you're not going to find anyone fishing for real money without using pretty heavy braid, because you got to get them in the boat. And braid, especially when it comes to walking the frog, is key because it gives you that instantaneous crispness to control it and get the proper action. As far as the reel goes, it's nothing special. It's your typical 7-to-1 bait caster. You definitely don't want a slow reel. You could go probably 8-to-1. You could go down to 6-to-1 if you had to, but you want to be able to pick up line. You want to be able to get them in the boat fast. And it's easier to walk with a 7 or higher, that's for sure. The big key to successfully walking a frog is the rod tip and the motion you work the bait with. You really want a nice short twitch, and you want to throw a little bit of slack to the bait each time. And if you do that, you can get it to walk really nicely. Your typical frog motion, if you're maybe working it over a mat, over some pads or something, is maybe more of a longer pull, and you're just not going to be able to walk a frog like that. You might occasionally get it to go sideways, but to get a consistent walk, you need a nice short twitch with just a little bit of slack thrown to it. It's a little trickier to produce than walking a Zara spook or something like that, but with a little practice and making sure that you get it dialed in for your frog and your rod, you can make it happen pretty consistently and pretty easily. You can also kind of walk a frog more slowly. You can walk it not quite in place, but pretty close to in place if you have the right frog and if you sort of get it set up right. And that'll let you fish a spot for a lot longer. It's not the fastest way to cover water, but it can be very effective. But most of the time, I'm just walking my frog, pretty quickly, but walking it along over whatever area I think there's going to be fish at. So that's how you walk a frog. Give it a shot. It'll help you catch more fish, give the fish a little bit different look from what they're used to seeing out of a frog.